Emma had always believed that passion and profession could coexist, but lately, she wasn't so sure. As a rising marketing executive in a fast-paced firm, her days were a blur of strategy meetings, client calls, and tight deadlines. Every success felt exhilarating, yet a quiet emptiness lingered at the edges of her achievements. That evening, she found herself at an art gallery, a brief escape from her work-driven life. Amid the hum of conversation and soft lighting, she noticed someone equally engrossed in the exhibits, Alex. Alex, an architect whose work demanded precision and vision, often found solace in places that sparked creativity rather than spreadsheets. The gallery's abstract canvases fascinated him, each painting a puzzle of emotion and form. When Emma accidentally knocked over a glass of wine near his feet, he didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled, a calm, genuine smile that made her heart skip. That small moment sparked a conversation that stretched for hours, touching on art, ambition, and dreams too often postponed for work. Though their professions couldn't be more different, they shared an unexpected alignment of ideals. Emma admired Alex's dedication and his ability to see beauty in structure. Alex was captivated by Emma's intensity and her knack for turning chaos into clarity. Yet, beneath the attraction, a tension lingered, a subtle hint that love and ambition could collide. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Alex couldn't resist the pull toward each other. Coffee dates turned into late dinners, and late dinners stretched into weekend strolls through the city streets. Each conversation revealed more about their passions. Emma spoke about campaigns and market analytics, while Alex discussed sustainable design and client constraints. It was intoxicating to share pieces of their worlds, yet they began to notice the first whispers of conflict. Emma received an offer to lead a major campaign for a top client, one that would demand 60-hour workweeks for the next 3 months. Alex had just been entrusted with a landmark project in the city's skyline, a dream opportunity that would consume every evening and weekend. They celebrated each other's successes, but felt the subtle pull of friction. Invitations to dinner were politely declined. Texts went unanswered for hours. Ambition, once admired, now loomed like a wall between them. Emma realized she was torn between professional triumph and personal happiness. Alex, equally torn, worried that love might force him to compromise his work ethic. Neither wanted to admit the fear. What if choosing one meant losing the other? Their first real argument came unexpectedly, over something trivial. Emma had promised to attend Alex's project unveiling, but a last-minute client crisis forced her to cancel. Alex's disappointment was palpable. "It feels like your work always comes first," he said quietly, not angry but pained. Emma's chest tightened. "I'm trying to build something meaningful, Alex. This is my career, just as much as your project is yours." The words hung in the air like smoke, neither wrong nor right, but impossible to ignore. They left the restaurant in silence, walking separate paths back to their apartments. That night, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing that love wasn't just about connection. It was also about compromise, sacrifice, and timing. Alex sat at his drafting table, hands trembling over sketches, thinking about the love he didn't want to lose, even if it threatened to clash with his dreams. Days turned into weeks, and their tension became a pattern. They still met, still shared laughter and stolen moments, but every joy was underscored by the unspoken weight of professional ambition. Emma began to question her priorities. Was it possible to achieve career greatness while nurturing a relationship that demanded attention, patience, and emotional labor? Alex wondered if his devotion to architecture made him selfish, blind to the needs of the woman he loved. Yet despite the friction, their bond deepened in unexpected ways. They learned to admire the other's resilience. Emma marveled at Alex's discipline, and Alex found inspiration in Emma's relentless drive. Each challenge became a mirror, reflecting their own fears and desires back at them. Slowly, they began to understand that love wasn't a distraction from their ambitions. It could be the very thing that made them stronger. Emma's campaign had reached a critical stage. Every decision mattered. Every client call carried weight. Her mind was a constant storm of ideas, contingencies, and strategies. Yet, in the quiet moments, those fleeting pauses between deadlines, she found herself thinking of Alex. She imagined him sketching tirelessly at his drafting table, hands moving with precision, eyes fixed on his vision. The thought made her chest ache with longing and a strange guilt. Could she excel in her career and still give him the attention he deserved? Alex, on the other hand, was facing the pressure of his architectural milestone. The project demanded perfection, and with every blueprint he revised, every structural challenge he solved, he felt the tug of Emma's absence. He missed their late-night conversations, the way she could challenge his ideas and make him laugh at the same time. He began to question the choices he had made in the name of ambition. Was it worth constructing monuments if the person he loved felt increasingly distant? One rainy evening, Emma and Alex met under the awning of a small cafe, both drenched from the sudden downpour. Neither spoke immediately. The sound of rain filled the space between them. Finally, Emma sighed. "I feel like we're living parallel lives," she admitted. "Every time we try to connect, work pulls us apart." Alex looked down, tracing raindrops on the table. "I know," he said softly. "I don't want to lose you, Emma. But I also can't abandon what I've worked for. Can we really have both?" Their conversation lingered into the night, not offering solutions, but a shared understanding. For the first time, they admitted that love and ambition might not always align perfectly, yet neither was willing to give up. The tension remained, but so did a quiet, fragile hope. Weeks later, a major opportunity forced them into direct professional rivalry. Emma's firm and Alex's company were competing for the same corporate client, one that could define their careers. The news hit them both like a thunderclap. Suddenly, ambition was no longer an abstract force. It was a tangible, unavoidable obstacle standing between them. They met at a neutral cafe to discuss the situation. Neither wanted to admit the fear gnawing at their hearts. "We need to focus on our work," Emma said, attempting firmness in her tone. Alex nodded, but his eyes betrayed the inner turmoil. They knew that victory for one might feel like a loss for the other, not just professionally, but personally. The following month was a delicate dance of professionalism and restraint. Emma poured her energy into crafting the perfect proposal, while Alex fine-tuned designs that could impress the client. Despite their rivalry, they found themselves subtly supporting each other. Emma sent a congratulatory message when Alex's concept passed a review, and Alex complimented Emma's creative pitch. It was a fragile truce between love and ambition, each act of kindness a reminder that they were more than competitors. They were partners in a complicated, shared life. The client presentation arrived, a high-stakes, make-or-break moment for both their careers. Sitting across from each other in the sleek conference room, they exchanged a glance filled with unspoken emotion, tension, respect, and affection intertwined. Each presented their ideas flawlessly, yet every word was layered with the awareness that the other's success might come at a personal cost. When the presentation ended, applause echoed through the room, but neither Emma nor Alex felt immediate triumph. Victory and love had merged into an intricate, uncomfortable mix. Afterward, they found themselves walking in the city park, the crisp evening air offering a moment of respite. "We're testing the limits of both our worlds," Alex said, finally breaking the silence. "But maybe that's the point. Love isn't about comfort, it's about endurance." Emma smiled faintly. "Maybe we're learning that the heart and ambition don't always move at the same pace. But if we're careful, we can find a way to walk together, even if the path isn't straight." For the first time, they felt a subtle alignment. Not perfection, but a willingness to accept the challenge. It was the start of a deeper understanding. Love and profession could coexist, not without friction, but with effort, respect, and unwavering intention. The weeks that followed were a delicate balance between triumph and tension. Emma's campaign gained unprecedented attention, earning accolades from colleagues and clients alike. She worked late nights, often returning home exhausted, only to find herself scrolling through Alex's messages with a pang of longing. He would send short updates on his architectural project, photos of models, sketches, and blueprints, but it was never enough to fill the growing distance between them. Emma began to notice how much she craved the warmth of his presence, the kind of conversations where laughter came naturally and silence felt comfortable rather than awkward. Alex, too, was grappling with his own turmoil. The landmark project he had dreamed of since his early days in architecture was finally taking shape, yet each success felt bittersweet without Emma by his side. He remembered the nights they had spent walking through the city, debating art, strategy, and life itself. Those moments, simple and unassuming, now seemed like relics of a world where love didn't have to compete with ambition. He started arriving home late, his sketches scattered across the table, each line representing not only his vision for the building, but also the walls he felt growing between them. They met sporadically, usually over hurried lunches or brief coffee breaks, each encounter charged with both affection and unspoken tension. Emma noticed the way Alex's eyes lingered on her, searching for a connection, yet immediately darting away when the pressures of their lives loomed too large. Alex, in turn, saw the exhaustion etched on Emma's face, the way her shoulders slumped after long meetings, and felt a helpless ache. He wanted to protect her from the weight she carried, yet he couldn't escape the pull of his own responsibilities. One evening, they finally allowed themselves to speak honestly. Sitting across from each other in a quiet corner of a nearly empty cafe, Emma reached for Alex's hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "I don't want us to drift apart," she whispered. "But sometimes it feels like our lives are moving in opposite directions." Alex's thumb brushed hers gently, a subtle reassurance. "I know," he said. "I feel it too. But maybe it's not about moving in the same direction. Maybe it's about learning to run alongside each other, even if the pace isn't the same." For the first time in weeks, they felt a sense of fragile hope. They weren't solving all their problems, but they were acknowledging them, accepting that love and career could coexist, messily, imperfectly, and with effort. That night, they walked home together, sharing stories, laughter, and silence, realizing that the city itself seemed to pause in those moments, giving them a small, stolen world where love could breathe. The turning point came unexpectedly. Emma's firm landed a critical contract, the kind that could cement her reputation for years. She was ecstatic, but the celebration was short-lived. Alex's company had been selected for a simultaneous project, one that directly competed with her client's interests. The professional rivalry suddenly became personal, forcing them into an uncomfortable reality where ambition and love collided head-on. At first, they tried to separate the personal from the professional. They met for dinner, laughing and reminiscing, pretending that the outside pressures didn't exist. But tension seeped into every word. Emma noticed Alex's guarded tone whenever she mentioned work. Alex detected a subtle defensiveness in Emma's laughter. Even in moments of joy, a quiet shadow of conflict followed them. One night, after a particularly grueling day, they sat on a park bench overlooking the city lights. Emma's voice trembled as she spoke. "I don't want us to become competitors in love. I can't lose you over work." Alex's gaze softened, but the weight in his eyes betrayed his own fears. "I would never let that happen, Emma. But I also can't pretend ambition isn't a part of who we are. Maybe we need to redefine what success means, for us, together." That conversation marked a subtle shift. They began to view their rivalry not as a wedge, but as a mirror. Each professional challenge reflected their strengths, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities. Instead of competing for superiority, they started to recognize the beauty of supporting each other, even from different sides of the table. Slowly, the friction between them transformed into a complex dance, a mixture of admiration, love, and respect, tempered by the realities of their ambitions. Time continued its relentless march, bringing new challenges and deeper emotions. Emma found herself exhausted, running on caffeine and determination, yet each day spent without Alex felt heavier than any work pressure. She began keeping a small notebook, jotting down thoughts, sketches, and moments she wanted to share with him. The notebook became a bridge between them, a tangible reminder that even when distance and deadlines pulled them apart, they were thinking of each other. Alex, noticing her little notebook, began responding in kind. Photos of architectural sketches, notes about inspiration, even small doodles. These exchanges were their lifeline, subtle reminders that love did not require constant presence, but could thrive in intention, thoughtfulness, and shared understanding. They learned to celebrate each other's victories privately and publicly, finding joy in knowing the other was thriving, even if success sometimes meant physical separation. Yet the balance remained precarious. A miscommunication over a client call led to a heated argument, the kind that left them both raw and questioning whether their ambitions were worth the strain. "Sometimes I feel like we're living in different worlds," Alex admitted later that night, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "And I don't want to wake up one day realizing we're strangers." Emma's tears were silent but powerful. "I feel the same," she whispered. "But I can't stop loving you just because our careers are demanding. And I hope you can't either." In that moment, they understood that love, like ambition, required perseverance, patience, and courage. It was not easy, but the connection they shared, tenuous yet unbreakable, was worth every challenge. Emma and Alex entered a season of intense professional pressure. Both projects were advancing, drawing public attention, and their competitive edge became sharper than ever. Each meeting, each presentation, was a test not only of skill but of endurance. Emma noticed that her thoughts often drifted mid-meeting, imagining how Alex would solve a problem or react to a client's challenge. She chastised herself silently. "Focus, Emma. This is your work." Yet, the pull of concern and affection was undeniable. Alex, meanwhile, struggled with sleepless nights. He pored over structural calculations and models, but the weight of Emma's absence pressed heavily on him. Every evening he glanced at his phone, hoping for a brief message, a reassurance that she was still there, not just in heart, but in the shared world they had tried to preserve. The tension between their love and careers became almost tangible, a strain neither could ignore. One night, after reviewing a blueprint, Alex stared out of his studio window at the city lights and whispered to himself, "How do we survive this without breaking?" Their attempts to meet were increasingly punctuated by stress. A quick lunch together often ended in hurried conversation about work deadlines rather than shared laughter. Emma began to notice a subtle defensiveness in Alex's words, a protective shield against hurt and disappointment. Alex, in turn, noticed Emma's exhaustion, the tightness in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted to her phone as though she expected a new crisis at any moment. Despite the love that bound them, they were both becoming acutely aware of the friction professional ambition introduced into their private lives. It was during a rare evening together, watching a city sunset from a quiet rooftop, that they finally confronted the silent tension. Emma's voice trembled with vulnerability. "Alex, I feel like we're slipping past each other. I love you, but sometimes I wonder if we can survive this ambition, these careers, and still be us." Alex took her hands in his, steady and firm. "Emma, I don't have the answers, but I know I can't let us fall apart. If we can find a way to support each other, truly support, maybe we can turn this challenge into something stronger than either of us imagined." That night, The city around them seemed to pause, offering a fleeting peace, a fragile bridge between ambition and love. The professional rivalry escalated when both of their projects came before a prestigious awards panel. Emma's campaign was hailed as innovative and bold, while Alex's architectural design received praise for ingenuity and elegance. When the results were announced, both won, but the timing sparked a new tension. Celebration was complicated by jealousy and pride. Emma's victory was shadowed by Alex's simultaneous success, and Alex's triumph was dulled by the awareness of Emma's accomplishment. It was a paradoxical mixture of joy and frustration, admiration and insecurity. That evening, they met at a small, dimly lit restaurant, a neutral space where they could talk without interruption. Emma, glass of wine in hand, laughed nervously. "We're unstoppable," she said, but there was a hint of sadness beneath the words. Alex smiled faintly, stirring his coffee. "Unstoppable, yes, but at what cost?" Silence stretched between them as both considered how ambition had shaped, and sometimes strained, their connection. They spent hours discussing their fears, the moments when they felt invisible to each other, and the nights when exhaustion and duty outweighed desire. Yet they also spoke of the small victories, messages exchanged during breaks, shared ideas that influenced each other's projects, and moments of quiet affection stolen amid chaos. It was clear they were learning to love not in spite of ambition, but alongside it, with all the compromises and negotiations that entailed. By the end of the night, they walked through empty streets hand in hand, the city's lights reflecting in puddles from a recent rain. Their connection felt renewed, not because the tension had disappeared, but because they had acknowledged it, confronted it, and chosen each other despite the challenges. A turning point arrived when Emma's company proposed an international expansion, requiring her to travel extensively over the next several months. The opportunity was a dream come true professionally, yet it forced a confrontation with the reality of their relationship. They sat in her apartment, maps and flight itineraries spread across the table, hearts heavy with anticipation and fear. "I don't want to lose this," Alex said quietly, tracing the lines of her itinerary with his finger. "But I also don't want to hold you back." Emma shook her head, tears threatening to spill. "Alex, I don't want to be held back either. But I also don't want to be without you. Can we find a way to survive the distance?" They talked late into the night, planning, imagining, and worrying. They agreed to daily calls, shared calendars, and small tokens of thoughtfulness. A text in the morning, a photo of something that reminded them of the other. But beneath the plans lay an undeniable anxiety. Love, once immediate and tangible, would now be tested by miles, time zones, and relentless ambition. When the day of her departure arrived, they stood at the airport, hands clasped tightly, reluctant to let go. "Promise me," Alex whispered, "that we won't let work define us more than this, us." Emma pressed her forehead against his, voice shaking but determined. "I promise. We'll fight for this, every day, no matter how far apart we are." And with that, they separated temporarily, each carrying a mix of hope, fear, and the burning certainty of love that refused to yield. The first weeks of separation tested their bond like never before. Emma traveled across continents, managing campaigns, clients, and presentations, while Alex poured himself into the architectural project that had become his obsession. Despite their careful planning, the strain was palpable. Messages went unanswered for hours, time zones collided, and exhaustion made each interaction brief, clipped, and sometimes tense. Yet amidst the struggle, they discovered resilience. Alex sent sketches with notes like, "Thought you might like this idea," while Emma recorded short voice messages describing her day, her hopes, her small victories. These gestures became lifelines, proof that love could persist despite physical absence. And when they did speak, even for a few minutes, It was a reminder of what they were fighting for, a connection stronger than the demands of ambition. Loneliness, however, also brought clarity. Emma realized that the work she loved felt hollow without someone to share it with. Alex understood that achievements, no matter how grand, were less meaningful without someone who knew his heart intimately. They began to see that love and profession were not enemies, but forces that, when balanced, could enhance rather than diminish each other. Weeks stretched into months, and the distance began to test both their patience and their trust. Emma's days were consumed by international meetings, tight deadlines, and constant travel. She loved the challenges, the thrill of closing deals, the feeling of being in control, but each achievement felt incomplete without Alex to share it with. Her apartment, once a haven, now seemed hollow in his absence. At night, she would scroll through his sketches, trace the lines he had drawn, imagining him sitting quietly, absorbed in his work, and she would feel both pride and a pang of longing. Alex, meanwhile, was submerged in his architectural project. The design demanded perfection, innovation, and relentless focus. Clients and colleagues praised his ingenuity, yet every congratulatory email and meeting left him hollow, because he couldn't share the excitement with Emma in the moment. Their calls, while cherished, were brief and scheduled, a poor substitute for the spontaneous conversations they once shared. He began to notice subtle irritations creeping in, missed messages, delayed replies, and the frustration of distance threatened to overshadow the love that had once felt effortless. One evening, after an exhausting day of client presentations and revisions, Emma finally broke down in her hotel room. She sent Alex a long, unfiltered message, her fears, her exhaustion, and her longing to be near him. When Alex received it, he felt an overwhelming surge of guilt and regret. He realized that ambition, while fulfilling, could never replace the intimacy they had once shared. He immediately called her, and their conversation stretched late into the night. There were tears, confessions, and long pauses filled with the unspoken weight of love and longing. Yet, by the end, they emerged more connected, their bond strengthened by honesty and vulnerability. The professional rivalry that had once threatened to drive them apart now became a mirror of their growth. Emma had begun to see Alex not as a competitor, but as a source of inspiration. She admired the dedication and creativity he poured into his projects, and she realized that his successes were not a threat to her own ambitions. Similarly, Alex began to celebrate Emma's achievements without comparison or jealousy. He marveled at her ingenuity, the way she could navigate chaos and transform it into triumph. Slowly, admiration replaced tension, and love became a quiet, steady presence amidst the storm of their careers. Despite the reconciliation, challenges persisted. Emma was asked to relocate temporarily to another continent for a high-stakes campaign, while Alex's architectural firm required him to oversee construction on-site, leaving him little time to travel. The prospect of months apart loomed, and for the first time, both wondered if love alone was enough to sustain them. They had fought through distance before, but this was a different level, a test not just of endurance, but of priorities, patience, and mutual sacrifice. To cope, they established rituals, early morning calls, late-night video chats, and handwritten letters sent between cities. They began sending photos of small moments, a street cafe, a sketch, a snapshot of a campaign billboard, or a newly completed building floor. These gestures became lifelines, a tangible proof that despite the miles, they were still living parallel lives connected by intention, care, and unwavering love. One pivotal evening, Alex flew to Emma's city to surprise her during a particularly grueling week. She was exhausted, a whirlwind of meetings and client demands, and she nearly didn't recognize him when he appeared in her office doorway. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic declarations. Instead, Alex simply handed her a small notebook he had filled with sketches, quotes, and little reminders of their love, and she felt a wave of relief and warmth unlike anything she had experienced in months. They spent the weekend together, walking through streets that had once been their playground for conversation and laughter. They talked openly about their fears, their ambitions, and the tension that had accompanied both. Emma admitted, "Sometimes I feel like work is winning, like it's taking more than it should." Alex squeezed her hand, eyes steady. "But we're still here. That's proof it's worth it. We just need to keep fighting, not against work, but together against anything that threatens us." In those days, they realized a profound truth. Love and ambition were not enemies, but forces that, if managed with care, could enhance one another. Ambition could inspire love, challenge it, and even threaten it, but love could provide grounding, perspective, and resilience in the face of professional trials. Their relationship had evolved, matured, and deepened in ways neither could have anticipated, and they felt stronger together than they had ever imagined. Returning to their respective cities, the distance now felt more manageable. Emma approached her work with renewed clarity, no longer haunted by the fear of losing Alex. Instead, she carried his support with her, letting it fuel her confidence and creativity. Alex, too, infused his architectural designs with new energy, inspired by Emma's unwavering drive and the thought of their shared future. Yet life remained unpredictable. A major client issue threatened Emma's campaign, requiring her to extend her stay abroad. Alex's construction site faced unexpected regulatory hurdles, demanding long hours and constant problem-solving. Stress and fatigue returned, testing their patience and communication. They found themselves on video calls that stretched into the early morning, navigating miscommunications, exhaustion, and frustration. But this time, the foundation they had built, the trust, admiration, and deep emotional connection, allowed them to weather the storm with grace and resilience. They discovered subtle ways to integrate their lives despite the challenges. Alex sent Emma sketches that inspired her marketing ideas. Emma shared campaign insights that influenced Alex's design presentations. Their work began to overlap creatively, merging their professional worlds without diminishing their individual ambitions. The friction they had once feared became a catalyst for collaboration, deepening both love and respect. The months of distance and pressure culminated in a turning point neither could ignore. Emma's international campaign faced a public scandal, a minor mistake blown out of proportion by media scrutiny. The stress was relentless, and for the first time, she questioned her own abilities, her choices, and even the life she had built. Alone in her hotel room one evening, she stared at her reflection in the window, watching city lights flicker across her face. Doubt gnawed at her, and she realized how much she craved not only Alex's presence, but also his reassurance, his voice telling her that she was capable, brilliant, and loved. Alex, meanwhile, faced a crisis of his own. One of the crucial structural elements in his project failed a safety inspection, forcing him to make immediate design revisions. The hours stretched endlessly, the pressure of responsibility weighing heavily on him. He called Emma late one night, intending to vent, but both were exhausted and tense. The conversation turned into a heated argument, words cutting deeper than either intended. "I can't be everything you need right now," Alex said sharply. Emma's voice trembled as she responded, "And I can't be everything for you either. Maybe love isn't enough." After the call, both sat alone in silence, hearts pounding with guilt and frustration. They realized that ambition, while necessary, had created a pressure cooker for their relationship, amplifying insecurities and fears. Yet, amid the turmoil, there was a quiet understanding. They loved each other enough to fight through the pain, to find a path back. The reconciliation began not with grand gestures, but small, deliberate acts of care. Emma sent Alex a carefully written letter, not filled with apologies or excuses, but with honesty. She shared her fears, her doubts, and her unwavering love for him. Alex responded with sketches and notes, each one a silent acknowledgement of her words, each line a reminder that their bond was not broken. Over time, they rebuilt communication, learning to voice frustrations without blame, to listen without judgment, and to support without reservation. They discovered that vulnerability was not weakness. It was the bridge that kept them connected despite distance and ambition. Emma confessed the exhaustion of her responsibilities. Alex admitted his fear of failing both professionally and personally. Through these conversations, they began to see their challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to grow together. They realized that love was not just an emotion, but a choice, a conscious, daily commitment to nurture the connection, even when the world demanded everything else. Emma's campaign stabilized, and she returned home for a short period, allowing them to reunite physically for the first time in months. The reunion was quiet yet profound, full of lingering touches, shared meals, and long conversations that stretched into the night. For a while, it felt as though the world had slowed, giving them space to breathe, to rebuild intimacy, and to savor the small joys of being together. During this time, Alex invited Emma to visit his architectural site. She walked through the partially completed building, marveling at the vision and dedication required to bring it to life. "This is incredible," she said softly, taking in the grand structure. Alex smiled, pride and love shining in his eyes. "And yet, it feels incomplete without you here. You make everything better, not just the building, but life itself." In that moment, they both understood that their love, though tested by ambition and distance, had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply rooted than before. But life, as always, was unpredictable. Alex received an offer to lead a prestigious project in another country, an opportunity that could define his career but required him to be away for nearly a year. Emma, just as her marketing campaign entered a critical phase, was expected to travel frequently as well. The prospect of renewed separation loomed, heavier than before, and for the first time, both questioned whether their love could withstand another prolonged absence. They spent an entire night discussing possibilities, moving together temporarily, adjusting career ambitions, or attempting long distance once more. Neither wanted to sacrifice their dreams, yet neither wanted to lose the other. Finally, they arrived at a decision, a plan built on trust, transparency, and compromise. Alex would take the project but arranged to work remotely when possible, and Emma would accept her campaign responsibilities while reserving time for meaningful connection. They realized that love and ambition would always require negotiation, but the willingness to compromise was proof of their commitment. Their renewed strategy worked better than expected. Communication became a priority, not a luxury. Video calls, handwritten letters, and shared schedules ensured that they remained present in each other's lives, even amidst professional chaos. Emma found solace in Alex's unwavering support, and Alex drew strength from Emma's encouragement and admiration. They celebrated victories together, no matter the distance, and comforted each other during failures, large or small. The challenges they had faced began to feel like a shared journey rather than opposing forces. Emma realized that ambition could inspire growth in love rather than diminish it, while Alex saw that devotion did not require surrendering personal goals. They were no longer just two individuals pursuing separate paths. They were partners navigating the complex intersection of love and career with grace, resilience, and mutual respect. Months passed, and Emma and Alex became adept at balancing love and ambition. Each learned to anticipate the other's challenges, to celebrate victories without envy, and to provide support without judgment. Yet the strain of their demanding careers and occasional long-distance periods remained, a constant undercurrent reminding them that love alone could not erase the demands of life. Then, an unexpected crisis emerged. A key component of Alex's project failed a safety inspection, requiring immediate redesigns. At the same time, Emma's campaign faced a last-minute client change that could make or break her international expansion. Both were exhausted, overwhelmed, and pushed to the edge of their patience. In the middle of one long video call, frustration erupted. "I can't do this alone," Emma shouted, tears spilling over. Alex, equally tense, responded, "Neither can I. But we're not supposed to be alone. We're supposed to be together." That argument became a turning point. It forced them to confront the limits of endurance and the reality of their love under pressure. After a long silence, they both recognized that they had been treating each other as extensions of their professional selves rather than independent hearts that needed care. They spent the next hours speaking honestly, acknowledging mistakes, fears, and insecurities. By the end of the night, they found not just reconciliation but a renewed understanding. Love was not about escaping challenges, but about facing them together, even when the world demanded more than they felt capable of giving. With that clarity, they approached their professional challenges with renewed focus and cooperation. Emma adjusted her schedule, delegating some responsibilities to trusted colleagues, while Alex reorganized his project timeline to allow meaningful breaks. They began integrating their lives creatively. Alex incorporated elements inspired by Emma's campaigns into his design presentations, while Emma used her experiences from Alex's architectural challenges to inspire innovative marketing solutions. Their work began to reflect a subtle partnership, even when miles apart. The depth of their bond became apparent to friends and colleagues alike. People noticed the quiet strength and confidence in Emma that Alex's support had nurtured, and Alex's colleagues admired his calm, creative energy, subtly influenced by Emma's encouragement. It was as if love had become a silent force that strengthened both individually and collectively, shaping their professional brilliance without overshadowing their personal connection. A pivotal moment arrived when both their projects reached simultaneous completion. Emma's international campaign succeeded beyond expectations, drawing accolades from global clients. Alex's architectural masterpiece was unveiled, celebrated for its innovation and elegance. Their triumphs, achieved in parallel, highlighted how far they had come, not just professionally, but as a couple. They met afterward in the city where their journey had first begun, at the same quiet cafe where they had once debated ambition and love. Sitting across from each other, they laughed, reminisced, and spoke openly about the struggles they had endured. Emma reached across the table, her hand resting over Alex's. "We survived it," she said softly. Alex nodded, eyes bright with emotion. "We didn't just survive. We became stronger, together." It was a moment of quiet triumph, a victory that was neither measured in awards nor accolades, but in resilience, understanding, and the deep certainty that they had chosen each other despite every challenge. With the professional storms behind them, they allowed themselves to dream together, not just as individuals, but as a couple. Plans for shared adventures, long-term projects, and even a future home began to take shape. Their relationship was no longer tested by doubt or distance, but strengthened by shared vision and experience. One evening, walking hand in hand along the river where the city lights shimmered like stars, Alex turned to Emma and said, "I think we've learned the hardest lesson of all, that love isn't about avoiding struggle, but about choosing to face it together." Emma smiled, heart full, and replied, "And I wouldn't want to face it with anyone else but you." In that quiet, luminous moment, they realized that love and ambition, once feared as opposing forces, had become their greatest teachers. They had learned patience, compromise, and the art of supporting each other while pursuing personal dreams. Their bond, forged in struggle, had emerged unbreakable. Life continued, but the rhythm of their love had changed. Work still demanded much, but they had mastered the balance. Emma's campaigns continued to excel internationally, while Alex's architectural designs reshaped city skylines. They celebrated each victory, large or small, with each other present, not as interruptions to their ambitions, but as integral parts of their shared journey. Even small disagreements, once explosive, became opportunities for growth. They had learned to listen, to pause, to step into each other's perspectives. Emma no longer felt guilt when dedicating herself to her clients, knowing Alex understood and supported her. Alex no longer feared losing himself in work, because Emma had proven time and again that love could endure distance, pressure, and ambition. Together, they were a team, capable of achieving greatness in both life and love. The first anniversary of their major professional victories arrived, and they celebrated not with grand gestures, but with quiet intimacy. A simple dinner, laughter over shared memories, and a walk through the streets that had witnessed the beginning of their journey. Each step, each word, felt like a reaffirmation of the promises they had made. Promises to face challenges, to communicate openly, and to love without reservation. They reflected on the past year, the crises, the distance, the arguments, and the triumphs. Every moment, no matter how painful or exhausting, had contributed to a bond deeper than either could have imagined. Emma realized that love was not static. It required courage, vulnerability, and endurance. Alex understood that ambition was not a threat to intimacy, but an opportunity to grow together when navigated with trust and respect. In the months that followed, they began envisioning a shared future beyond professional pursuits. A home, designed together, reflecting both Alex's architectural vision and Emma's creative sensibility. Joint travels, combining business and leisure, turning even work trips into moments of connection. Their lives, once separate and often in conflict, now intertwined seamlessly, each ambition complementing rather than competing with the other. They had learned that true partnership required not just love, but also respect for each other's dreams. Emma encouraged Alex to take risks, knowing he would do the same for her. They celebrated victories together and faced setbacks together, each challenge strengthening the trust and admiration that formed the foundation of their relationship. One crisp evening, as the city lights shimmered across the river, Alex surprised Emma with a quiet gesture. No words were necessary, just a hand extended, a look full of shared history, triumph, and love. They walked together, side by side, feeling the culmination of years of effort, patience, and resilience. In the silence, they understood. The tension that had once threatened to divide them had become the very force that bound them. Ambition and love, once opposing currents, had merged into a powerful, sustaining flow. Emma whispered, "I never thought we could balance everything. Work, love, life. But we did. We really did." Alex's eyes glistened with emotion. "Because we chose each other every step of the way." Finally, their story reached a place of harmony. Love and profession were no longer at odds, but coexisted in a delicate, dynamic balance. They had faced distance, rivalry, exhaustion, and fear, emerging stronger and more connected than ever. Their bond was a testament to endurance, patience, and the courage to love fiercely while pursuing dreams passionately. As they stood together, overlooking the skyline Alex had helped shape and the city Emma had conquered professionally, they understood the ultimate truth. Love is not diminished by ambition, nor ambition weakened by love. Together, they had created something enduring, extraordinary, and deeply human. A life built on respect, trust, passion, and unwavering devotion. And in that shared triumph, they knew that no challenge, no distance, no professional storm could ever undo what they had built.